All right. Well, hello there, everybody. As you can tell, I'm not here today. I'm in the district, just not in the building. So Mrs. Carey is going to help take you through this process. This is not going to be very long or complicated. I don't have a lot of technical things to talk about, but I want to make sure I finish talking about what we started yesterday with our timeline of Jews as other. And then I'll introduce kind of our big concept of our evidence log that we're going to be using for the rest of this unit. And then I'll give you your homework for Wednesday. You'll have some time in class, have some time outside of class, but hopefully this will all make sense. So yesterday we had gotten to this idea of Jews as other and other examples throughout history. So our Catholic Church continues to perpetrate these two ideas of Jews as killers of Christ and as others throughout the Middle Ages, the Renaissance, and beyond. So the idea is that throughout the Middle Ages, the Europeans are looking at creating this sense of Jewish as other. During the plague, they blamed Jews for poisoning wells. Over 200 Jewish communities were wiped out in Europe. Remember, yesterday we talked about this idea of the ghetto that is created in all of these cities of Jews. Well, it was pretty easy to wipe out the Jews because they were all living in one place. Even the great Martin Luther was not much of a fan of the Jews. At first, Martin Luther was actually somewhat supportive of the Jews because they stood up to the Catholic Church like he did. But then when they didn't convert to his version of Christianity, he lost it and he just went off on them. And this is the famous quote by Martin Luther. He advises that people set fire to their synagogues or schools and to bury or cover with dirt whatever will not burn, so that no man will ever again see a stone or cinder of them. I mean, what a perfect way to end that, right? Us versus them. Well, they should be obliterated, wiped off the face of the earth. This is Martin Luther, the great reformer in the 1500s, who really transformed the way Europeans looked at religion. Even he kind of lost it on the Jews. So then we move ahead about 300 years to the pogroms. Remember, pogroms, in Russia are going to be found in the late 1800s and early 1900s. And these were pogroms sponsored by the government in Russia, identifying the Jews as them, identifying Jews as that problem group in Russia that was causing all kinds of problems, particularly with the intelligentsia, who were giving the czars all kinds of problems. So that's really where a lot of this starts. Well, when a lot of the Jews got concerned about what was going on in Russia, they didn't like getting picked on, so they left and they went to Eastern Europe, the only place left that wasn't organized into a country. Parts of Poland, parts of Germany. And guess what? That's where our anti-Semitic propaganda really gets rolling, which of course is going to end in the Holocaust, the systematic murder of 6 million Jews by the Nazis. So, how do we get from this idea of Jesus was a Jew to the idea that we're going to kill 6 million Jews by the Nazis? And like we said yesterday, it's not just the focus on the Jewish people and the Jewish this and the Jewish that. It's the idea of the Holocaust creating a sense of us versus them. And not just the Holocaust, any genocide, this idea of us versus them. So that kind of cues up who the Jews were and how the Jews became the quote-unquote other. And how did that start? So now I want to talk about our big project for this unit, okay? And it's not necessarily a big project, but it kind of is. So in this unit, we have what we call an essential question. And up here in Google Classroom last night, I shared with you a document called the Holocaust and Human Behavior Unit Project. And so here is your essential question for this entire unit. And we're going to answer this question when it's all said and done. Okay, the prompt. In a period of 12 years, Germany went from an emerging democracy to a dictatorship that eventually committed genocide. What factors contributed to this transition? Which factors were most significant? So you really have three components here that you're really trying to talk about. Okay, first of all is what factors contributed to this transition? And in what time periods did this happen? Because it's not like Hitler woke up one day and said, let's kill Jews. It was a long, slow process that had created this sense of what we've spent quite a bit of time talking about already, of us versus them. Which of these factors was most significant in the evolution then of genocide? So those are kind of the three things we want to think about. What factors contributed to this transition? When did those factors happen? And what factors were most significant? So what we have here is this is what we call an evidence log. We use these in every unit in U.S. history. So those of you that are taking regular U.S. history next year, you'll see these exact same documents next year. This is something new to us in world studies, so this is something new. So what this is there are three parts to this. Okay, so I'm going to skip down to the first part. This, don't get overwhelmed by that. Okay, so part 2 of this assignment. What is your thesis? What is your answer to the question that is up above? And what I mean by the question up above is this guy right here, this prompt. What is your answer to this very document right here? How does your answer come into play? Then part 3, and this is the part that will probably interest most of you the most, is you are going to choose a presentation format. Okay, all projects must provide 3 pieces of evidence from each of the 3 time periods. So you're going to be talking about 9 different pieces of evidence of the decline of the Jews as a people into them, they, as opposed to being us. And so this decline is going to take many forms, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But your finished product is going to be to create a Prezi or a slide presentation, create a song or a rap, write an essay, create a poster, create a video, create a comic book. I will tell you the path of least resistance in my mind is to write an essay, because this evidence log right here is going to be what you would use to build an outline. The outline will build the paper. So it's a very tiered process. Now, by the same token, you can use this evidence log to create a Prezi. You can use this evidence log to create a poster, a video. And when I say a video, I'm not talking an hour-long video. I'm talking, a long enough video where you can explain how Jews became them in a short period of time. The last item here is create a comic book. Some people really like to use different types of technology. So this is kind of like the other option. If you don't want to do a paper, you don't want to do a song or a Prezi, you want to do a poster presentation, these are kind of your options. Now, the rubric is here. Now, this rubric, it's a changing document. Okay, there's only 4 different things that we're looking at plus a thesis. Now, obviously, the thesis being worth 10 points out of 60, it's a big deal. And then these other ideas are kind of the makeup of what the project should look like. So what this evidence does, what this rubric does, it kind of gives you the guidelines of what we're looking for and how we're going to grade your project. Okay, so this is at the bottom of that document. So there's really 4 parts to this document. I said 3 earlier. Part 4 is the rubric. Part 3 is the assignment, what it's going to be, and then part 2 is the thesis. So now let's go back to our evidence log. So if you look at our evidence log up here across the top, we've got some different columns that we want you to kind of be thinking about. Okay, first of all is the time periods. Okay, what time periods did these things happen? And we are giving that to you. We will give you the time period. Part 2 is the examples. Okay, and this is going to be terms, ideas, concepts that you want to explain. So like right here, we have an example of Jews as other. This is the example that this is a sample of what you might put together. Okay, so this is where the thinking really has to happen. Okay, so first of all, it says, okay, what does the text or data evidence say? All right, define the term or the concept. This is just purely what is it? What did it say? So what we said here is Thomas of Monmouth and a boy named William, because that should be a key to you in your head, that this is the story of starting this process of Jews becoming other, whatever that means. Then our fourth column, is what does this mean? How does this tie to the Holocaust? Okay, and this is where you got to start thinking now. Now you got to start, this isn't just look up a definition on Wikipedia or Google Classroom. This is where you got to actually kind of think a little bit. So here, how does this event, really this question, you should always kind of come back to this question. How does this tie to the Holocaust? So what happens here with this buildup with Thomas of Monmouth, it begins this idea of a myth that is created to make William a saint and to bring fame to William's monastery. Then fame will bring visitors, visitors will bring money, money will make their abbey, their monastery that much more powerful, influential, strong, etc. Excuse me, I had to yawn. And then, so this is that idea of how does this tie to the Holocaust? It starts this process of discontent, of malcontent, of dislike of the Jews. Then our third column, and this is where you really got to put your thinking caps on. This fifth column, third column of our text here, of these three, this is the one that really takes the most higher level thinking. But the more thinking you put into this column over here, the easier it will be to put together your outline and your essay. What we have found is students that spend a lot of time on the evidence log spend very little time actually writing the paper because it just kind of writes itself with the information that you're going to use. So, what this talks about is individual greed and fame caused William of Monmouth to create a fictional story about the evil Jews creating us versus them. Anti-Semitism, the idea of anti-Semitism, which leads to the fear of them Jews. So that's kind of how you will build this. Now, we've given you 4 blanks in each of these time periods. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And notice the time periods. So we just are going to start Weimar Republic this week. Next week, we're going to spend a lot of time on Nazis in power and the end of the Holocaust. So those are kind of your 3 time periods. Your first time period is everything we've done so far. Now, most of what we've done so far is focused on just European history, not so much the idea of Jews as other. So don't necessarily confuse we Protestants versus you Catholics. Don't get those ideas in here. We're just focusing on the Holocaust in Europe. So, there's your evidence log. If you want to start working on this, great. My plan is to start building in some time, maybe in plus periods, where we could go over these. Some of you can add lines. It's a very simple process. If you just click in one of the tables, you all have your own document now, you go up to table, you insert a row above or below, wherever you want it, and it will insert a new row. So if you want to have 7 or 8 things in there, and then when it comes time to write the paper, pick the 3 things that you want to use, because I don't want 9 things, I want 3. So you pick the 3 most important things that were anti-Semitism prior to 1919. Then pick the 3 most important things about the Weimar Republic. And then pick the 3 most important things about Nazis being in power in World War II and how the Nazis treated the Jews. So how did these 3 things, then it comes back to this essential question. In all of these, be thinking, what factors contributed to the transition of Jews as they, and what factors were the most significant? Hopefully this helps. I will be here on Wednesday. I'll be able to answer any questions that you might have. Don't send me individual emails about this document, but I just wanted to introduce this idea so you could start thinking mostly about these ideas down here by creating a Prezi, a song, an essay, a poster of how you would talk about these ideas. And like I said, I think the path of least resistance in this project is an essay. But some of you are tired of writing papers. Some of you, you want to do something else, be more creative. There are options there for you. So have at it. Let your crazy little minds go at it. This project tentatively is due the 20th of May, which is right before the week before finals. So that's kind of our tentative deadline here. So you got plenty of time to work on this. We'll try to build some class time in. Obviously, plus periods will be beneficial. What I'm going to start doing next week is I'm going to start expanding the number of students I allow to sign up for my plus periods, especially if I'm going to do like an evidence log day, which I do a lot with U.S. history. But it's going to be a little trickier because with U.S. history, we tell them what goes in this column, what goes in this first column. You're going to be building your own, but it would certainly be some good work time to put together that plus period or that evidence log. So I'm going to do one more short video to explain today's homework assignment for Wednesday. See you in a bit.